If you are dealing with out-of-memory errors while dealing with huge datasets, then you are in the right place. Because in this video, I'm going to show you some strategies of dealing with those datasets using Pandas, no matter how big they are. So for today's video, I'm going to use this dataset from Kaggle. It's basically an e-commerce event history from a cosmetic shop. This file contains about the 5 months of data from October 2019 till February 2020 from a medium cosmetic online shop where each row represents an event. And if I go, these are the columns in the dataset like event time, event type, product ID, category code, brand price, and then event type can be view cart, remove from cart, and purchase. These are the all 4 values that can be possibly there inside this event type. And now if I see one row from the dataset here is this is the, if I go a little bit here, so this is the time when the event happened. This is the event type, which is the type view, product ID, category ID, brand is, this is the brand, this is the price, and this for this user, the event happened. Okay, so the first thing that I have to do, I have to download this Kaggle dataset to my laptop. So let's bring my Visual Studio Code and start from there. So here I have my Visual Studio Code. Let's start creating a new Jupyter notebook. So the first thing that I need to do is basically I need to install the Kaggle. Now I have a dedicated video where I've shown you step-by-step way to connect your Kaggle dataset inside your Visual Studio Code and download the dataset. So if you haven't checked that video, I'll put the link in the description as well as on the top right corner. You can pause this video and go and check that out. But let's assume that you have already checked that video or you know how to do that. I am going to create my first code, which is basically I'm installing the Kaggle. So Kaggle installation is done. Then I am going to search for the dataset, which is this command, and it's telling that this dataset is already present inside here and inside here. And this is the size. So all I am going to use is this one. This is the command. I'm going to use this reference and I'm going to store the data inside my data directory here. It will take few minutes to load the data because it's a very big Kaggle dataset. Okay, so as you can see, it took 52.8 seconds to download this entire dataset. And now if I go under my data folder, I can see there is a new zip file being downloaded. So I need to unzip this zip file. And here is a command. This is the one, and then I am going to unzip the zip file. Let's execute that, and it's doing the unzip. And as you can see, all these new files are coming out from the zip file. So that looks good. So let's check the file size. So all the files are here. And let's execute this command. As you can see, these are quite big files. Forget about the zip file, but inside, once I unzip that, these are all the CSVs. And if you see, these are quite the big files like 479, 466, 460. So these are quite a big files, but in reality, you'll be probably dealing with much bigger files than this. But for this video, I tried to take a file which is not in KBs and still quite a big file. So in this video, I am going to use this 2019 December file. So to do that, the first thing that I need to do, I need to read the file. So for read the file, I need to import the pandas. So pandas import is done, and then I need to read the CSV file. So the command for that is pd, which is basically pandas dot read CSV. This is the function. This is the file which I am going to read under this folder and 2019 December, and this is a parameter which I have provided along with the read.csv file. So if we go to documentation of Pandas, this is the read.csv, and under that there is a parameter called chunk size, and if we read that, it's basically telling it's an optional parameter first of all, but whatever number that will provide that number of lines to be read from the file per chunk. So at a time, that many number of lines will be read from the file. So this is a very effective way of reading a big file. If you try to read a big file all in a once, you might face a problem like out of memory error and all these different type of errors. So it's always recommended that instead of reading the file all in a once, read the file in a chunk. And now the chunk size is something that you need to decide based on the size of your file. So for this case, I have decided this is a chunk size which I want to go with. So let's execute this one. Okay, so far so good. So now what I am going to do, I am going to execute a for loop for chunk in df. What I am going to do, I am going to do the chunk.head. And this is very important. I need to put a break. If I don't put a break, then this for loop will keep on running and it might be out of the memory error. So it's very important that for your programming, use a break here. Let's execute that. And this is the result from the first chunk. So you can see here, event type, all these things came up. Let's assume for my use case here, I don't need all these columns. Only columns which I need, let's type it here. I probably need the brand. Then I probably need the event type and the category code. Let's say these are my columns which I need. Then let's create this. And now if I execute the same one again, it actually reduced to a small table where I have only 3 columns: brand, event type, and category code. How many columns were there in the initial one? Let's open that dataset again. There were initially, how many columns? I believe 9 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 columns. So from 9 columns, we have reduced to 3 columns. Okay, so now what I will do is basically, I'll do a grouping, but for doing the grouping, let me add another column here, which is basically a count column. And let's give the value, initial value as 1 for all of them. And now if I execute it again, what I can see is that, okay, let's execute this one again and then this one. What I can see is that there is a new column being added, which is basically a column name is count, and then the value is all 1. Okay, let's do one more thing. Let's check how many rows we have inside this one chunk. So details.info. So if we see here, each chunk is basically this many rows, which is correct because our chunk size was this one, right? So this looks correct. Now, can we do something else? Can we group this based on our brand and event type and the category code? Because there can be multiple values present with the same combination. Can we do that? The answer is yes, we can do a grouping. So let's do the grouping now. So what I am doing now, I'm doing a group by based on all these columns and creating a sum. My count column will be used. And then this time I'm going to use the summary head and summary info. So let's execute this one again. And this time I'm going to use this. So now it came up like this. So this brand, the category code is this, event type was card, happened 15 times. It came 15 times inside my first chunk. And so if I now see the info, it only came down to 73 rows. Previously, it was this many rows, 100k rows. From 100k rows, with one single group by, we reduced to 73 rows. Okay, so sounds good. So now what I'll do, I will concatenate this result from each chunk in output variable. So for that, let me create the output variable. So this is my output variable, and let's get rid of this one. And what I am going to do, and for each of this for loop, I'm going to do a concatenation and putting the result in the output variable. But this time I want my for loop to run for full amount of time. So that's why I'm going to delete the break command. So execute this one again and execute this one. So it's running all the for loop now. Looks like for loop execution is done. Once the entire for loop has executed, we came to a very small subset where only 3000 rows are there and 4 columns are there. Now this is basically a concatenation of each for loop. But that doesn't mean that this event is not present in 2 for loops. Let's say for loop executed first time, there is a chunk file of 100k data. We have do the grouping. Second time, there is another chunk file. We do the grouping. And then we concatenate the result. That result is stored in the output. But now what we need to find out is that if there is a similar event between in this entire output, it can happen because the first execution of for loop, the same data can present also in the second execution of the for loop. And now this is the place where all the information is there and we need to do another grouping here on this output. So for that, the command is basically the same command. Now I'm doing a group by of this output based on all these columns and doing a sum and reset index and storing the value in the final output. So let's execute that. And once it's executed, if I do a final output sort variable, what I can see from that 3036 rows, it reduced to only 163 rows. So I have a much smaller file to deal with now. We started with a very big file. Now it reduced to a very small file of only 163 rows and 4 columns. So what we can do is that we can store the file inside our cosmetic shop, and let's give it a name at aggregated cosmetic this. Yep. So now if I execute that, our new file has been created. So now let's take LH and this one. We started with this file of size 396 megabyte. We did all our manipulation, reduced multiple columns, get rid of multiple columns, do a grouping on each chunk, and then concatenate that result. On the concatenated result, do another grouping to get a very smaller subset to deal with. And that smaller subset is this one, which is only 7 KB. So from 396 megabyte, we have reduced the file size to 7 KB. Now this 7 KB is a very smaller file to deal with. So this is one strategy to deal with a bigger file in Pandas, but there can be multiple strategies. So if you are handling bigger files in a different way, please put that in the comment section of this video. I'll be more than happy to go through that and understand that. I hope by now you are feeling more confident of handling these huge datasets using Pandas. But remember, optimizing your data scenarios or data handling is a very crucial step in data science. If there is a specific big data scenarios that you'd like me to cover or any Pandas challenge that you are facing, please put that in the comment section of this video. I'll have a look and try to create a videos on that topic. And if you haven't done that yet, please subscribe to my channel Technical Potpourri and hit the bell icon so that next time when I'll publish new videos on data science machine learning, you'll be the first person to be notified. Till then, stay safe. Thank you. Bye bye.